It's a long way to the top. If you want to rock and roll, you want to rock and roll. Riding on the highway, going to a show. Stopping on the byway, playing rock and roll. Getting round, getting stoned, getting beat up, getting a bone, getting high, getting shook. I show you folks, it's harder than it looks. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. If you feel see the new one night stands, try playing a rock and roll band. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Good evening, folks. I'm your host, Caden Reif, and welcome back to another installment of the 2008 season of the NASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series as the NASCAR Garage heads to Rockingham for race number 2 of 36 of this season. It's the Subway 400 here tonight for our first standard oval of the season following this year's Daytona 500. Scott Wimmer in the 5-car, your winner last week, his second career Daytona 500 victory. This week, it's Rockingham for a bit of tire shredding action here on the short track high banks of the Rock. And we take you to the racetrack for your starting lineup in tonight's race as Jeff Gordon in the 24 car is going to start on pole here from Rockingham, last year's winner of this race. Kevin Harvick in the 20 car will join him on the front row in second. J.J. Yaley, the 10, in the third position, a good qualifying for that 10 team. Greg Biffle in the 16 will start in fourth with Jason Leffler in the fifth position. Kurt Busch will start this race in sixth. Scott Riggs will be in P7, a double top 10 starting spot for the PPC team. Tony Stewart will be in the 8th spot. Ninth place goes to Casey Kane, and Casey Mears rounds out the top 10 in the 99. Carl Edwards will be in the 11th position, with Juan Pablo Montoya in 12th. 13th, Ryan Newman's 38, and Marcos Ambrose will be in the 14th spot. 15th is Jimmy Johnson's 48. Brad Keselowski will start in P16 here tonight. Clint Boyer will be in the 17th position in the 4. Boris Said in the 60. He'll be in 18th. 19th goes to Jamie McMurray's 40, and Matt Kenseth will round out the top 20. Dale Earnhardt Jr., P21 in the 88. DJ Kennington, last year's champion. He'll start 22nd. 23rd will be Andrew Ranger, the rookie, and 24th, Elliott Sadler. David Rudiman in 25th. And the Daytona 500 winner, Scott Wimmer, he'll start in 26th place. Bobby Labonte will be P27. Kyle Busch in 28th. Shane Meals, 47. He'll be 29th. 30th goes to Ricky Hendrick in the 02. John Andretti will start this race from 31st, and Jeremy Mayfield in 32nd place. Todd Cleaver will be P33 in the 98. Robbie Gordon will be in 34th spot. Scott Steckley for the 23 team, he's 35th. Morgan Shepherd starts in the 36th position. Casey Atwood will be 37th. Eric Norris in 38th. Chad McCumbie's number 17 for Germain, he's 39th. Jeff Burton will start in 40th. Rounding out the field in the back row would be Todd Bodine in 41st. And Chad Chaffin for Ware Racing Enterprises in 42nd place. 110 lapper here tonight from Rockingham as we take you trackside for the most famous words in motorsports, the command here from the Subway 400.
Drivers, start your engines!
Field comes to life as we get set to go here in Rockingham. This is what a lot of drivers consider, and fans alike consider, the big important test of where your season is set to go. Of course, Daytona, big wild card to open up the season. Most important race of the season, of course, but it was a big wild card. We saw 3 major wrecks in that race that took a considerable amount of the field out. Only had about 15 cars who were competitive at the end of that race, looking for the Daytona 500 win. Here at Rockingham, it's a clean slate, a reset. And here tonight, it's going to be a test of skill and endurance. Rockingham is such a tough racetrack, so much tire wear at this place. Pit strategy is going to be important, keeping your car clean and making sure you find your way up front. It's a hard racetrack to pass at, but the drivers love this place, and this old racing surface proves a challenge for this 42-car field. Pace car is in on the left. It's the Subway 400 here from Rockingham. Race number 2 of 2008 is underway as Jeff Gordon leads us off towards turn number 1. Up to speed for the first time here tonight, and Jeff Gordon off the pole takes away the race lead. You saw there Harvick dropping backwards. That outside lane is not the spot you want to be in at this racing facility. It is not easy to maintain track position up on that high side, especially off the race start. And you can see Gordon taking well advantage of that as Harvick, the outside pole sitter, fell down to 3rd. He's in a battle with J.J. Yaley for that position off the start. Jason Leffler up into 4th, and Scott Riggs in the 57 will round out the top 5. A lot of movement early in the going. PPC with a strong start to this year, of course. Had a couple of competitive cars left at the end of the Daytona 500. Yaley in that 10 car was the runner-up finisher in this year's Daytona 500. Came up just short to the 5 of Scott Wimmer, but had himself a competitive run all race long. Him and his teammate Riggs were 2 of the best cars in that race. And Yaley came up just short of that win, and now they have both of their cars in the top 5 here at Rockingham, trying to prove that run wasn't a fluke. As Gordon, winner of this race in the 2007 season, has taken to the front of the field off the pole. Harvick still stuck behind that 10 car for the 2nd position. Ryan Newman finds himself stuck on the outside. A good start for Dale Earnhardt Jr., his teammate down low, who is looking to move into the top 10 past the 38. And Newman drops behind the 16 and the 4 as well, and there you see that outside really not working too well for a lot of these guys. Riggs in the 57 finds himself underneath of Jason Leffler. That is the one spot there you saw where that outside can prove to be an advantage on entry to turn 1. It's so hard to get down onto the bottom going into that corner, but man, Casey Kane going to drive underneath of Scott Riggs in turn 3. And he takes away that spot that Riggs thought he had clean sailing. Edwards in the 19 car follows through into the top 5. Riggs dropping backwards. McMurray off of a very good start into the top 10 as well. Top 3 broken away just a little bit thanks to that battle for 4th place. It's still Harvick, Yaley, and Gordon in order from 3rd to 1st. As at 20, yet to find a way around Yaley for this runner-up position. Couple of strong Chevrolets early in the going, both from different teams, of course. That 24 and that 20. As Jeff Gordon in the 24 car, coming off of a very strong season last year. It was a quietly strong season for Jeff Gordon, and as a whole, we mentioned over and over again over the course of the 2007 season how Hendrick really seemed to take a long time to get a grasp of the Gen 5 and figure out exactly what it was they needed to be competitive in the new generation of NASCAR Cup car. But for Gordon, the 24 car really came alive in the middle stretch of the season, tailing towards the back end. It was about a third of the season that the 24 was maybe the best car on the racetrack for about 10 or so weeks. From about race maybe 16 to race 26, the 24 car really came alive and found himself right at the front of the championship standings. Of course, Tony Stewart and DJ Kennington absolutely ran away with first and second in the Cup points over the course of the 2007 season. But it was Jeff Gordon in that 24 car who, for just a little while there, was seeming like he might start to come knocking at the door while those two were nipping at each other's ankles. And for Gordon, it kind of started to come apart towards the end of the season. Just a couple of DNFs took him out of the outside looking in conversation for that 2007 championship. But it was this race that he won last season, round number 3 it was at the time, that he won this Subway 400. And finished off last year just behind his teammate Jimmy Johnson, who was 3rd in the standings, and Gordon finished 4th. It really seemed like Hendrick as a whole just kind of figured out the Gen 5 for the final third or so of the season. Jimmy Johnson rattled off a bunch of wins. He collected 5 over the course of the year. Jeff Gordon had 2 wins to the season, but many argued that neither of them were on pace alone. Both came off of strategy. It was Michigan and Rockingham that the 2014 took victories in last season. Rockingham, it was a late race yellow right at the final pit cycle that put Gordon into the lead, and he would not relinquish it when it seemed sure that Scott Wimmer might have a shot to win this race last season. And then at Michigan, part of the doubleheader that was late in that 2007 campaign, Gordon once again had a bit of damage from an earlier incident, but a very late yellow flag came out when the 24 had taken the lead on pit cycles again, and that race ended up going green with just 2 laps to go, but a caution came out thanks to an incident coming to take the white flag, and that race ended under yellow despite the 2 to go, and the 24 and then the 18 of Labonte having those older tires compared to the rest of the field. So Gordon, a lot of fans thought that that 24 didn't take a win on merit last season, but a victory is a victory, and of course he had the full season to prove it. Was just so consistent over the course of that 2007 campaign. Top 5 after top 5 in the middle portion of that season, but of course nobody was stopping the 81 or the 42, who comfortably were first and second in the championship. But the 24 and 48 really had things under control down the stretch of that 2007 season and were just so competitive. And once again, Gordon in the 24 finding himself out front. It's been a lot of success for this 24 team at Rockingham over the last maybe 5 or so years. Has multiple wins at this very racetrack. Dating back to about 2002, Gordon has really had a stranglehold of this facility, and it is any wonder that he has once again found himself up front. J.J. Yaley in that 10 car is broken away from Kevin Harvick for the 2nd position. Casey Kane, who was just a little bit further back in the 4th position, has slowly caught up to this top 3 who had found themselves isolated from the rest of the field. Kane in that 12 car, Coca-Cola 600 winner in 2007, had a very, very up and down season, had a lot of DNFs down the stretch, and for Kane, found himself 13th in points at the end of the season when he thought he was potentially a top 5 driver, and it was his rookie teammate Brad Keselowski who overtook him in the championship standings in the final race of the season after Kane had yet another incident in Miami. And for Kane, it was really just a struggle to find the ability to finish races. And Roger Penske said of Kane, "I know this is a young man who can win us a championship. It's just a question of trying to finish races and find that consistency he had a couple of years ago." You think back to that 2005 season where Kane hadn't won a single race over the course of that 2005 campaign, was still searching for his first career win at the time, but very nearly brought home the Coca-Cola Cup Series championship before he had ever won a Cup Series event in an individual race. Ended up being bested by the then 20 of Tony Stewart for that 2005 Cup Championship, and subsequently in 2006 went on to win 5 races in that Cup Series campaign, which would be his last season for the 38 Yates team. And it was really an explosion, a breakout for Kane that year, but it was a struggle to find consistency for Casey over the course of that season. He did finish top 5 in the championship standings come the end of that season. He was 4th in the driver championship by the time the year was concluded with those 5 wins. But he was the only driver in the top 5 in the points to have less than 15 top 5s, in which he only had 10 of them. It was a real struggle to find consistency for Kane. He was the only one under 20 top 10s as well, but he had the winning pace. And that was the one thing a lot of critics considered that Kane was lacking at the time to be a true championship contender. And he rattled off win after win after it took him so long to find that first career Cup victory. But then in the 2007 season, it was just 2 wins to his name, one of which in the Coke 600. Didn't quite have the consistent season, kind of took a step backwards in consistency over the course of that 2007 campaign. But he finds himself with another clean slate, a new opportunity, and that 12 team looking strong here tonight. It's going to be a question of if anyone has the pace to beat that 24 of Jeff Gordon at the moment. It's got the early car to do it. Of course, a lot of pit stops and a lot of adjustments left to come for this top 5 and potentially more. Jimmy Johnson in the 48, fellow Hendrick teammate, has entered the top 5. McMurray sits in the 6th position. You see Jason Leffler continuing to hold his top 10 starting spot. He's in 7th. Carl Edwards with a good start. He's in P8. Same for Dale Earnhardt Jr., who's 9th. And Earnhardt Jr.'s teammate Ryan Newman in the 10th position, rounding out this top 10. Scott Riggs in that 57, still stuck behind traffic. As we mentioned, he was in the top 10 a little bit earlier. Biffle, Clint Boyer, who have trailed this 38 for just a little while, still sitting here just outside the top 10, and as well as Tony Stewart in the 42 car, who has found his way into the top 15. Top 4 still under a little bit of a blanket. It's Gordon, Yaley, Harvick, and Kane, as the top 3 still have not changed in running order since the opening lap moved Yaley into 2nd place and Harvick down to 3rd. But that might change as Kevin Harvick throws his nose underneath the Yaley here in turn 1. And finally, that 20 car of Harvick is able to complete the pass on J.J. Yaley for the runner-up spot. And the Busch Light Chevrolet into the 2nd position here on lap number 27. Gordon still holding steadfast. Of course, Kane followed Harvick through into the 3rd position. But Harvick and Gordon starting to pull away just a little bit from these other 2 members of this top 4. And you saw lap traffic up the road. The 52 of Chad Chaffin is the first car to potentially fall a lap down around lap number 30. Norris, Bodine, Shepard also up the road. Casey Atwood having a rough day in that 30, as well as Jeff Burton in the 8. Ricky Hendrick and Bobby Labonte down the order as well. This time by for Jeff Gordon in the 24. 30 laps completed here in the Subway 400. Led every lap of this race so far, has the 24. But not without challenge. Kevin Harvick, who has really started to come alive later down the stretch of this run, has found his way up to the back bumper of the 24 of Gordon, and we might very well have ourselves a battle for the lead just outside of a third of this race completed. Harvick there on the outside trying to run a little bit higher than that 24. Get a run on corner exit and pull up to the back bumper of the DuPont Chevrolet that's in the lead of this race. Doing it again there in turns 3 and 4, and pit stops for the back markers, so we should see our first pit window here in just a little bit. Nearly a half second of tire fall off over the course of this run. Last time by was over 26 seconds when the best laps of the race by the leaders were 23.8. But you're going to see the pit stops here as Jeff Gordon and Kevin Harvick are going to bring it down pit road. Jamie McMurray in the 40 will be the first car to go long as he stays out an extra lap and will lead the first lap, not led by the 24 in tonight's race. But Harvick and Gordon, the two race leaders, going to bring it down pit lane. Pits are always a tough spot on this racetrack especially. And tight mix with Biffle leaving the pit road there, but Gordon is going to have the lane to get into the pits. Harvick in cleanly as well. Keeping an eye out for any incidents in the pit lane. Kane out of pit road in the 12. Left side's going on for the 24 and the 20, and Gordon will lead Kevin Harvick out of pit road. You see Ryan Newman in the 38, who has stayed out long. Usually we do see this at this racetrack. Some drivers like to go long for the purposes of fuel strategy. Kennington and Kenseth still on the racetrack right behind the 24 and the 20, who should still easily be the net leaders, especially with the undercut on the drivers who have gone long. There's McMurray in the 40 leaving pit road there. But Kennington, potentially the net race leader here. Not sure if Newman has brought it down the pits just yet. That is potentially the case. No, it is not. So 38 is still on pit road. That is Ryan Newman, of course. And you got to think about that fuel game, because if you were to go about 35 laps or so, which is just about how long the main race leaders have gone in this event, it isn't quite going to get you there on fuel. It'll be 35.70 and then 105. So these drivers who stay out longer usually trying to set up a proper fuel window to get down pit road and a better opportunity for fuel. But of course you see such a pace difference as Jeff Burton, who has been running this race outside the top 35, absolutely flying past that 38 of Ryan Newman. Eric Norris and Jeff Gordon, the net race leader, closing up as Gordon and Harvick are going to get past this 38 car here. And Harvick actually got held up because Newman, with the hand out the window, is going to bring it down pit road, lap number 39 for Ryan Newman. So much time lost on the old tires. But trying to stretch it just a little bit longer for that fuel window. I think Kurt Busch in the 01 car was the only driver to run into pit road troubles here. And that appears to have been the case. Yeah, got into some trouble with Kyle Busch as Shane Meal in the 47 also had issues. So brother Kurt and Kyle getting into each other, and Kurt Busch ends up with incident on pit road, and he's going to be multiple laps down. Kennington and Kenseth just now leaving pit road. But a check back on our race leader, Jeff Gordon, who is now comfortably out into the race lead here in Rockingham once again. And Kevin Harvick into the second position. Kane will hold third. Fourth is Yaley, and Jamie McMurray, despite going a lap longer on the old tires, going to have the better advantage on the long run here tonight. He's going to be in the fifth position to round out your top five, as Kenseth and that 01 of Kurt Busch rejoin the racetrack. Kenseth a lap down, but with better tires. Newman did not quite get lapped. He was significantly further up the field compared to the 81 and the 17. Jeff Gordon's got himself a comfortable lead over a third of the way into this race. Kevin Harvick did hit the pit stop pretty well and was right on the tail of that 24. And in fact, just ran his best lap of the race behind the 51 of Eric Norris. But the 20 of Harvick got held up pretty hard there by Newman coming in to make his pit stop. So see how things work out for him here, as he's going to have to chase the 24 down. But of course, lap traffic now playing a factor. Boris said in the 60, the next car in line for the 24 of Gordon to try and get past here. Cutting him just a little bit of slack at the moment. Said really covering that bottom. Eric Norris and Kevin Harvick pulled up close to the back bumper of the 24 of Jeff Gordon there, thanks to how much this 60 is kind of blocking that 24 on the bottom. I think Gordon probably wanted to get all the way down to the yellow line to get underneath of him, but Said didn't allow him to do it. 60 trying to remain on the lead lap. Meanwhile, Harvick is going to get underneath of Norris and vanquish the buffer between him and Jeff Gordon in the 24 for the race lead. So now Harvick going to try and run this 24 down. Gordon struggling a little bit to get past the 60 of Said at the present moment, who is really just covering that bottom. You see, that just seems to be the 60's line, running real low on corner entry. And Gordon kind of getting boxed in by Said here. Thought about going to the outside, but not quite going to try it. Doesn't want to get trapped on the worst line, and Harvick in that 20 is lurking in the background, right behind Jeff Gordon, and he has gotten to the back bumper of this 24 car once again. Gordon trying to get underneath his Said here. Harvick almost forced Gordon to follow him up the racetrack, but the 24 gets underneath of Boris Said on the front stretch here, so another car lap down. Harvick now with an opportunity, and Jeff Burton in the 8 car right in front. 3 Chevrolets in a line. Gordon going to try to sneak the nose underneath of Burton. Might have scared the 8 up the racetrack just a little bit, but couldn't quite force the issue with that 8. Gordon still trying to find a way. Burton real sideways in front of the 24 there, coming off of turn 2. As we mentioned, not an easy racetrack to get around this place. But Gordon does get underneath the 8 of Jeff Burton there in turns 1 and 2. Burton slipped up on exit. That allows Harvick under the 8. He's got his teammate Kennington, who's on the fresher tires, trying to make up a lot of time right behind him. Kennington having a real uncharacteristically rough race right now from the defending champion. Kennington going to cut his teammate slack here. Harvick taking a look, but Gordon's going to cover him off. Though maybe not. Slipped up on exit. 3 wide, almost 4 wide coming out of turn number 4 as Kennington very nearly overdrove it into the back bumper of his teammate Harvick. But cut him just enough slack. And Harvick in the 20 car has stolen the lead as Gordon gets stuck on the outside of all the lap cars he just disposed of. So Harvick into the lead. See if Kennington will wait a little bit for Harvick to put a buffer to the 51 before he unlaps himself against his teammate here. He's cut him a lot of slack. He very nearly turned him coming out of turn 4 when Harvick tried to take the lead. Would love to get a replay of that very nearly contact, as Kennington really clearly was trying to cut his teammate some slack. Of course, Kennington's on a lot better tires at the moment and very nearly got into the back of the 20, but managed to hold him off, and now Kennington unlaps himself, so Kevin Harvick into the race lead and running away from the 24. Jeff Gordon really caught a bad piece of luck there with the lap traffic. And is getting held up here as the 8 and the 52 of Burton and Chaffin are side by side, and that pulls Yaley, Kane, and many more into this battle. Chaffin clipping the apron in front of this 24, and Harvick is long gone as these lap cars are holding everybody else in the top 5 up. You see the 17 and the 01, both fresher tires. Lap cars on alternate strategies trying to get past the leaders. Biffle and Johnson drivers for position for the 24, 10, and the 12. Gordon really trying to get aggressive with this 52 of Chaffin, who is absolutely just tailbacking him into the 17. Nowhere for Gordon to go just yet. And he's got the 17 and the 01, who are both on fresher tires, and they're going to take him 3 wide. So another pair of lap cars get past the 24. Gordon falling all the way into the clutches of Kane. It is a disaster of a middle run for this 24 car right now, as he very well might fall out of the top 5. Yaley gets past him, and here comes the lap car. Jeff Burton almost getting underneath him, and he will. Yaley gets past Johnson. Hendrick crumbling down the order. Tony Stewart looking to make up some spots on the 48 and the 24. But Gordon, the early leader of this race, has ended up nearly outside of the top 10. He will fall all the way to 9th as McMurray in the 40 gets past him. It's just a disaster of a run for that 24. And it is all lap traffic. So now we're going to start to see our second pit window as the 77 of Todd Bodine just brought it to pit road on lap number 60. Earliest pitters were around that 30 lap mark. So we'll see who decides to pit in next. Harvick giving room to Chad McCumbee up the road. You saw Dale Earnhardt Jr. on pit road. These guys costing themselves a lot of time, who are laps down, to try and cut a pit stop out of this race. Namely the 17, the 38, the 81. But Harvick may be going a little longer on this run. Rest of the top 10 have yet to bring it down pit road. Biffle was the first of the top 10 drivers to hit pit lane. Lap number 63 for Kevin Harvick right now. No pit stop by the 20 just yet. Kane in the 12 is going to make his move. Yaley brings it down pit road as well. You see McMurray, Gordon, Stewart, Johnson still on the racetrack with the leader Harvick, who's now got a massive race lead right now. It's nearly 5 seconds. Riggs leaving pit road right in front of this 20. And contact between the 20 and the 57. They held on to it. Damage to the left rear of Kevin Harvick, who had his hand out to try to bring it to pit road. And Riggs drove it up underneath of the 20 car. Very nearly a disaster for our race leader, Kevin Harvick, who very clearly was trying to bring it to pit road right as Riggs left the pits. I guess he didn't see Harvick with the handout since he had just joined the racetrack, and Riggs drove it up underneath of him. And Harvick with maybe a little bit of damage. Let's see if this elongates his pit stop and costs him some of that lead. And it will. So a little bit of damage repairs for Harvick. but he is still going to leave pit road in front of the 48 and the 24. Harvick off pit road, but the 16 of Biffle with the undercut, as well as the 10 of Yaley move up a bunch on the racetrack, and Biffle is going to take the net race lead. Montoya and Edwards were the next two drivers to go long. Of course, Newman in the 38, who has continued this strategy, still on the racetrack, and he is the current race leader. For Newman, you have to imagine the goal is probably to get to around 70 to 73. Try and cut that final pit stop out. Newman losing a lot of time. Don't believe anyone has gotten stuck on pit road thanks to incidents this time. That appears to be the case. So it is Biffle comfortably in the net race lead thanks to that hefty undercut. I believe he was in around 60. On lap 61, the 16 hit pit road. Meanwhile, for Harvick and the rest of the race leaders, it was 3 or 4 laps later. Newman still yet to hit pit road. And of course, Newman still got a lot longer to go, even to a 30-lap mark. Or a 35-lap mark or so to his pit stop. Came in around lap 38. So I would imagine it would be around 73, 74 for Newman to hit pit road. He's so much slower than everyone else on the racetrack. We talk about the fact that Rockingham is one of the hardest racetracks on tires on the entire calendar, and there you see Jeff Burton proving it, the 8 car who's had such a struggle of a race, going around the outside of Newman. Rudiman, Newman's teammate, up to his back bumper inside the top 15. Dale Earnhardt Jr. as well, a member of this next big pack. Edwards in the 19 car appears to have had a pretty rough pit stop. He's well outside the top 15 at the moment. Earnhardt Jr. going around the outside of Newman. Rudiman really cutting his teammate a lot of slack here. Hasn't tried to switch lanes just yet, and you see it costing him and the rest of the drivers stuck on the bottom quite a lot of time. Amazed there hasn't been any contact yet. These guys are just backed up nose to tail. Newman still hasn't brought it to pit road yet. So many cars backed up in this train. Maybe about 10 entries who are up the back bumper, 3 wide behind as Ranger gets stuck on the top. Look at this pack. This feels like a bomb waiting to go off with how many people are backed up behind this 38 who finally gets filtered to the outside. And you see how quickly these guys get past him. Rudiman still stuck behind his teammate. Maybe 6 cars and even more, up to 10, cleared him in half a lap. Oh, and Rudiman almost got turned. Held onto it. What a save by the 28. Contact in turn 4 with Newman backing him up still, and almost got hooked by the 99. That was Casey Mears. My goodness, what a save. And you can see that borderline unsafe pace disparity between these two. And there's DJ Kennington right behind the 38, who has still been on the racetrack. Kurt Busch in the 01 brings it down pit road. Of course, he's been multiple laps down all night long, thanks to a pit road incident. But Newman has the lead, and it's gotten to the point where these two have almost lost the lead on pace to the 16 of Biffle, who's still got the first spot. Net P1, as Kennington and Newman are now going to hit pit road. They're definitely on schedule to cut a pit stop out of this race, but it's costing them, and if a yellow flag happens to come out, we are still incident-free here in North Carolina. But there you see, just as Biffle takes the lead with the two long pitters coming in, the 20 and the 48, Harvick and Johnson have slipped right on past, and the 20 now has the race lead back. So Biffle down to third, and Jimmy Johnson has found his way into this mix late. And the amazing thing is the 38 and 81 stayed out so long, but the 20 and 48 are likely going to be pitting in only about 10, 15 laps or so. It was around 65 that Harvick, Johnson, and the rest of the top five hit pit road. Biffle, of course, pit earlier. He was around 60. So still one more big pit stop for the race leaders. And the question becomes if Newman and Kennington are going to be able to hold the lead if they get it on the pit cycle. But Johnson, underneath of Kevin Harvick here in turns 3 and 4, and Jimmy Johnson in the 48 finds himself right back where he ended last year, and there is an issue for Montoya. He's got a tire down, and the caution's going to come out. Slow in the middle of the backstretch, and that throws a wrench into the plans of the long pitters. So with exactly 30 to go, the caution comes out for Montoya. You had to think this race couldn't possibly go green all the way, and it won't, as Montoya with a tire problem, and the yellow flag is out. Boris said in the 60 car will be the lucky dog. Jimmy Johnson going to bring it down pit road here from the race lead. And that evens up the playing field here for the race leaders. Johnson down pit road. And he hits his pit box. So here comes the money stop. This should be the last pit stop of the race for the leaders. 4 tires and fuel for the 48 of Johnson. And he is off and away. So the 48 out of his pit box. Back into the flow of traffic. Looking for the 20 of Harvick, who's getting his left sides on at the moment. Here comes the race off of pit road. And almost contact with Andrew Ranger. So Harvick probably thinking his lucky stars, he just got out clean. But Johnson is going to be the leader as he exits pit road in first. You're going to see the lap cars bring it down pit road, the handful of drivers who were pitting late. So 17, 81, and the 38 and the 01 of Kurt Busch all going to get a wave around. And Boris said the lucky dog. Lap number 83 here from the Subway 400. Our first caution comes late in the show, but the Johnson 48 car has the lead. We'll take it at intermission. It's NASCAR on ESPN here from North Carolina Speedway. Back from intermission here at Rockingham. Inside 25 to go. It'll be 24 to go on the restart. Lap number 87 for Jimmy Johnson, who has taken the taking the lead late here in Rockingham, as Kevin Harvick in the 20 car will start in second. Third place belongs to Greg Biffle in the 16. Even playing field now, and that undercut really helped him gain some track position here. He'll start third. Kane in fourth, and JJ Yaley rounds out the top 5 in the 10 car. Anybody's game here late. Let's see if Johnson's got the stuff to hold on to the lead and potentially the win here in Rockingham. It'll be 24 to go on the restart for the Lowe's Chevrolet. Pace car leads the field out of 4. Coming to the restart here as Jimmy Johnson in the 48 will have the lead. Green flag is in the air, and we are back underway. Harvick with a good start jumps to try and look to the outside. Not the spot you want to be in, but he is going to remain clear potentially. No, Biffle gets to his inside. Harvick with the wrong decision on the restart, and here comes Biffle to try to take the second spot. Yaley off the restart, got past Kane. He's looking to move into third, and he will do so. Harvick falling backwards. Johnson got exactly what he wanted on the restart. Disaster of a restart for Harvick, who is tumbling down the order. Riggs and Kane falling backwards as well. So do the 16 and the 10 have anything for the 48? That's going to become the question. Shane Meal finds his way into the top 10. Clint Boyer with a strong run late. It's Gordon, McMurray, Yaley, Biffle, and then the 48. This time by for Jimmy Johnson, it'll be 20 laps to go here from Rockingham. Biffle maybe closing in a little bit. Yaley and McMurray in hot pursuit of the leader as well. Down the back stretch, Biffle trying to find his way up to the back bumper of the 48 of Johnson. Yaley had a great turn 3, maybe cost himself a little bit of exit speed coming out of turn 4, but still not too far out of this thing. But Biffle closing the gap on Jimmy Johnson for the race lead inside the final 20 laps, and the 16 has found his way up to the back bumper of Jimmy Johnson for first. Question now becomes if he can find a way to pass him. Such a hard racetrack to make an overtake at. He's going to have to set him up on corner exit. Probably into turn 3 if he wants to make a move. But Biffle has a shot. Greg Biffle doing everything he can to try and stay within the footprints of the 48 of Johnson. Yaley is close enough to lay some pressure on. Biffle, a big mistake there in turn 2. Cut it too tight, had to get out of the throttle. That allows Yaley up to the back bumper of him, and Johnson out of his windshield. He's going to have to close in again if he wants to make a run. It's going to have to be in the next couple of laps. He's got to close that gap. Even corner by the 16 and the 48 that time through turns 1 and 2. Yaley drops off. Pressure comes off of the 16 car a little bit. Really drove it into turn 3. Had a great 3 and 4 that time. 15 laps to go now for Jimmy Johnson. Who's got the better stuff? Yaley and Johnson again. Great 1 and 2. Excuse me, Biffle and Johnson. Yaley dropped off. Biffle again, less pressure out of the back window. But he's got to get back to that bumper if he wants a shot. Great exit by Biffle that time. Beat Johnson back to the gas again. He's got to get there. $13 to go. $48 v $16. It's an episode of 2003 all over again. Johnson trying to hold Biffle off. Biffle off such a strong end to that 2007 campaign. Came out of the throttle out of 4. Johnson pulls away down the front stretch again. And again, another big mistake for Biffle in turns 1 and 2. Loses all that time a second time. You got to imagine that's got to be torture. That's 2 times now that Biffle has gotten sideways in the middle of the corner and lost all that time he made up. And again, Johnson just infinitely better out of turn 2. That might have sealed the race. It'll be 10 to go for Jimmy Johnson this time by. And Johnson's starting to cruise. The 20 of Harvick ended up in the 13th position after getting stuck on the outside. Kane is in 11th, and Riggs fell even further. He's down in 21st. And Johnson is checking out here inside the final 10 laps. Down the front stretch, Johnson with a comfortable lead over Biffle now. But a pretty good corner there. And the 21 car is blowing up, and that is going to be a caution flag. Andretti with engine trouble, and we will have another restart. And that changes everything. Caution is out for the second time tonight as Andretti loses an engine inside the final 10 laps. Lucky dog will be the 51 of Eric Norris. And now is where things get dicey. No pitters on the lead lap. It'll be inside 5 to go when we go back green. Jimmy Johnson in the 48 car is the race leader. It's the Subway 400 here from Rockingham. It's NASCAR on ESPN, and we will be right back. Back from intermission here in Rockingham as we get set to go green. Jimmy Johnson, with just 3 laps to go, is going to be the race leader. It's going to be a tall order to get past him in such a short time. Biffle's going to have to put together some perfect laps if he wants a chance at this race 2 victory. It's Johnson, Biffle, Yaley, McMurray, and Gordon, the top 5 on the restart. And the question is, does anyone have anything for Jimmy Johnson? Here we come, out of turn 4, 48 and 16. Up front, pace car pulls off. Johnson trying to hang on to this win. 3 laps to go on the restart. Green flag is in the air. A great restart for Johnson, an even better one for Jeff Gordon, who jumped underneath of McMurray on the start. Johnson and Biffle, even playing field down the backstretch as they pull away from Yaley, who's in 3rd. Old tires and cold tires for the 2 leaders. Johnson beginning to scoot away a little bit. 2 to go. Does Biffle have anything left? Little bit of a mistake from Johnson out of turn 2. Biffle pulls back up to the back bumper of him down the backstretch. About a car length between him. Biffle drives it into turn 3. He's going to have one more shot on the last lap. The white flag is in the air one more time around at Rockingham. Biffle trying to get there. Johnson trying to hold the 16 off. Here they go down the max stretch for the final time. 48 versus 16. Into turn 3. Johnson's got enough of a buffer. And this time out of 40, it's going to be the 48 out of turn 4, winning his first race of the season early. Johnson takes it here in the Subway 400 at Rockingham. Biffle just did not have it. And Johnson holds him off for the win here tonight. And it's the Lowe's 48 back in victory lane once again for Jimmy Johnson here tonight. His 31st career Cup Series win, and Johnson takes home the checkered flag in Rockingham after a hard-fought race all night long. The late restart doesn't prove enough to get the 16 in front of the 48, and Jimmy Johnson wins it. But that'll do it for coverage here from Rockingham, as Jimmy Johnson in the 48 car is your winner here in the Subway 400. Next week, be race number 3 of the 2008 season as the Cup Series heads to Darlington for the Food City Rebel 400. I've been your host, Caden Rife. It's been a pleasure to have you along as always. It's been NASCAR and ESPN here from Rockingham, and we will see you next time. And as always, have yourself a good one.